Stop whatever you are doing right now. Just pause for a moment. Let the noise around you go quiet. Set down the weight of your thoughts for just a little while, and gently turn your attention to what has actually been living inside you beneath all the surface-level busyness. Something has been there. You have probably felt it already. A tightness that appears in your chest with no warning at all. A flash of a certain face in your mind at the most unexpected times. A low electric humming feeling that sits just underneath the rhythm of your ordinary day. That feeling is not random. It is not your imagination playing tricks on you. It is not wishful thinking dressed up as a sign. It is a real signal. Energy is flowing in your direction at this very moment, and the deepest part of you is already picking it up before your thoughts have even had a chance to catch up. Your inner self operates on a level that goes far below words or messages or visible actions. It reads what is moving beneath the surface. This is exactly why you can feel that something is changing with this person before there is any clear proof of it happening on the outside. That gentle pull you feel in your chest, the one you keep brushing off as something silly, is actually your own inner wisdom letting you know that this connection still has unfinished meaning left inside it. If you have been feeling that pull lately, that quiet ache towards someone without being able to explain why, stay right here because this is for you. This is how it usually works. Just before something real shifts in the outside world, a quiet pressure begins to build on the inside first. It feels like a tension that hums in your body without you being able to put a name on it fully. That is exactly the position you are in right now. Small cracks are forming in what felt like solid silence. Paths are beginning to appear where there once seemed to be nothing but closed doors. Your place in this person's life has not disappeared the way your fear kept telling you it had. While you were sitting with your own uncertainty, something was slowly happening inside them. The walls they had built around their heart, those walls made of fear and pride, and the desperate need to feel in control, have been quietly weakening. The strong pull you have been sensing is real. It is there because they are now carrying emotions they can no longer keep locked away. The truth inside them has been rising whether they feel ready to face it or not. The bond between you runs deeper than logic can explain. Distance cannot erase it. Time alone cannot dissolve it. To understand why the shift is happening right now, and why the next few days are going to feel noticeably different, it helps to look at what this person has quietly been going through during all this silence between you. They have been moving carefully, keeping space, watching from a distance, caught somewhere between their own tangled fears and a pull toward you that they worked extremely hard to convince themselves did not exist. Comment pull if you have been sensing their energy lately, even without any contact. During the time apart, they filled their days with things that looked fine from the outside. They appeared calm, collected, like someone who had simply moved forward and settled into a new chapter. But that was only the surface. That calm was a cover. It was a mask they wore, even for themselves, so they could keep believing that stepping back had been the right and wise choice. As the weeks passed, that mask grew heavier. Underneath it, a quiet and invisible war was taking place. Night after night they reasoned with themselves. They explained the distance logically, told themselves it was safer, wiser, healthier. Some of that came from pride, some from genuine fear, some from simply not knowing how to hold feelings that felt much too large and too complicated to face directly. And that is something that happens far more often than most people ever talk about. Sometimes a person does not pull away because they feel nothing. They pull away because they feel far too much. Being truly seen by another person can feel frightening at first. It stirs up old fears about losing control or getting hurt in ways that still have not healed. But when two people carry a genuine connection between them, all the reasoning in the world eventually loses its grip. Slowly the walls this person had built around themselves began to weaken from the inside. As that happened, they started to notice that life without you had a certain flatness to it, a quiet emptiness they could not easily name or replace with anything else. A new kind of awareness began growing inside them, They realized that the version of themselves they had been presenting to the world, that guarded, controlled, everything is fine version, was not their real self. It was a role they had been playing, and it no longer felt like it fit. Every effort they made to create more distance was quietly interrupted by something that kept pulling their thoughts back around. It was not just the ordinary missing of a person. It was something that reached all the way into their sense of who they actually are. It became a turning point for them, a slow and private kind of awakening. There were times they tried to drown those feelings out with noise and distractions and other people. But even in those moments, comparisons kept slipping in. Thoughts they would never say out loud kept drifting back to you. All of that was quietly building under the surface and leading toward the shift you are now beginning to feel. Type yes if your gut has been telling you something is moving with this person, something is shifting, and this time the old escapes are no longer working the same way. A person can only stay in avoidance for so long before their deeper self gets completely exhausted from the effort. That is precisely where this person is right now. The life they constructed to keep their feelings at a distance is no longer giving them the numbness it once did. They had told themselves that enough space would weaken the pull, that enough quiet would slowly reduce what they felt, that enough time would gently erase your presence from their emotional world. But the opposite happened. The longer the separation stretched, the clearer their feelings became. Instead of fading, you grew more present in their thoughts. They began noticing you in the small and unexpected spaces, in the quiet before sleep, in conversations that suddenly felt hollow, in crowded places where they still felt completely alone. Something kept bringing their focus back to you, and that is when a deeper understanding began to take root inside them. They started to see that what existed between you was not some ordinary connection or a passing feeling. It was something that had reached places inside them that no one else had ever touched. Once that kind of understanding arrives, it changes the way a person sees everything, because once you know a bond is truly rare, you cannot go back to treating it as if it is ordinary. Their mind may still try to argue against it, but the heart speaks with a strength that logic cannot defeat for long. There have been nights when they sat quietly and returned in their memory to moments you may have stopped thinking about entirely. Small things that once seemed unremarkable now carry enormous weight when they revisit them. The way you showed up for them during a hard moment, the calm your presence brought without any effort, the rare ease of being with someone you do not have to perform for. That kind of emotional safety is genuinely uncommon. The space it leaves behind when it is gone is not something you can fill with substitutes. They have been trying, and it has not worked. Every time they looked for traces of that feeling somewhere else, they came back more aware of what was actually between you. At first, pride told them they could move forward just fine, that they were stronger than what they felt. But pride always reaches its limit. It eventually has to meet the truth of what a person actually feels inside. For this person, that limit has arrived. Comment awakening. If you believe they are starting to feel what they lost, they have started to see the connection differently now. It is no longer something they think they can simply choose to put away or swap out at will. They are beginning to understand that meeting you permanently altered something in them. That is not something a person can simply decide to undo. While all of this has been happening inside them, something has also been shifting inside you. Even if this person still crosses your mind often and you wonder what might happen, you are not in the same emotional place you were before. Something inside you has steadied, has grown calmer and more rooted through all of this. You learned what it truly feels like to reach towards someone who was not meeting you halfway. You felt the exhaustion of carrying most of the emotional weight by yourself, and slowly, through the confusion and the long stretches of silence, you began pulling your own energy back inward. That shift means more than it might seem right now. Because when you stopped overextending yourself and stopped being endlessly available in the hope that it would finally be enough, everything about the energy between you transformed completely. There was a time when your feelings were mostly aimed outward at this person. How your day went depended on whether they replied, whether they reached out, whether they gave you any sign. But somewhere along the way, you became truly tired of that pattern. Not dramatically, not with any grand announcement, but quietly, your inner self understood that your own peace carried real value. You turned your energy gently back toward yourself, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally began caring for yourself with the same steady attention you had been giving to someone else. That decision created an enormous shift in the energy between you. Drop in a compass below if you have been getting strong signs about this person lately. When someone is constantly pouring their focus outward, their presence can start to feel like background noise, something others take for granted without even realizing it. But when that energy turns inward and becomes still, the absence of it becomes impossible to ignore. That is exactly what this person is experiencing right now. They are feeling your distance in a completely new way, because your energy no longer carries the same reaching, the same urgency, the same quiet plea for their attention. Instead of weakening the connection, it has pushed them directly into facing what they have actually been missing. This is why they have grown more restless. Some part of them senses that you are no longer the same. The version of you that waited and tried and quietly made themselves smaller is becoming something different, and that realization brings a feeling of urgency, because they are beginning to sense that time may not stay on their side forever. People often cannot recognize the true value of something until they have spent a long enough stretch living without it. This person is now sitting with the full weight of every moment they chose to wait, every feeling they pushed away, every time fear steered the decision. For the first time, they cannot easily look away from that truth. Sometimes distance is not what ends a connection, it is what finally makes the connection visible in a way that cannot be denied. Separation has a way of revealing emotional patterns that were hidden before. It shows where fear lives inside a person. It shows where someone has been slowly losing themselves while searching for love. And it shows clearly what each person looks like when they are standing entirely alone. This time apart changed both of you, but in different ways. It helped you return to your own worth without needing their response to confirm it. It gave them the experience of moving through life without your particular energy present. And that experience changed them more than they expected. Comment next step. If you feel they are about to reach out or make a move, what they are feeling is not just missing someone in the general sense. They miss your energy specifically, your depth, the precise way they felt when they were around you, the experience of being truly understood without having to explain every piece of themselves first. That realization has grown strong enough that they can no longer push it comfortably to the side. What they are carrying is not a passing mood or a few difficult nights in a row. It has become something steady that runs through their daily life, whether they try to engage with it or try to ignore it. There are moments when they are doing something completely routine, and a memory of you arrives without invitation and takes over their full attention. A sound, a smell, a certain word someone says, a particular time of day. All of it has started to carry traces of you inside it. At first those moments unsettled them because they wanted to believe they had complete authority over their own inner world. They wanted to decide exactly when you appeared in their thoughts and when you did not. But genuine emotional truth does not follow such rules. The stronger the bond, the more naturally it asserts itself. And they are now at the point where resisting the connection costs more energy than it returns. The walls they built for safety have started to feel less like protection and more like a quiet kind of isolation. The silence they thought they needed has begun to feel heavy rather than peaceful. It has pushed them into honest reflection. From that place they are looking back at things with entirely different eyes. They are remembering the times when you worked to understand them while they remained closed off. They are recalling moments when you offered patience they never fully acknowledged or appreciated. Those memories now carry a weight they did not carry before, because they can finally see what was actually being offered to them. Real love can feel ordinary when it is present every day. You do not always recognize how rare it is, until the space where it lived becomes noticeably empty. This person is now seeing how rare what you gave truly was. The honesty, the steadiness, the emotional depth. The comfort of being with someone who made them feel free to be exactly who they are without performing or pretending. They looked for pieces of that feeling elsewhere. They found nothing, and every failed attempt only made your importance clearer and harder to dismiss. There were nights when they tried hard to move on completely, only to find their thoughts circling back before the night was even over. Moments when they made a deliberate choice to cut the emotional thread, only to feel the pull intensify the moment they tried. Every attempt to escape the bond only made them more aware of how deeply rooted it was. That happens because what existed between you never lived only on the surface. Something inside them genuinely recognized something real inside you. That kind of deep recognition does not simply vanish because someone decides it should. And whether they can say this out loud yet or not, they feel the difference in you. They sense that you are no longer following them emotionally the way you once were. They notice that you have become more settled, less anxious, less dependent on their words for your own inner balance. And strangely, that is the very thing that has made their awareness of you sharper than ever before. When someone stops chasing and comes back to themselves, their energy takes on a different quality entirely. You became still, and in that stillness, they were left alone with the full force of their own feelings, with no distraction to hide behind. Their thoughts keep returning here. Their emotions will no longer let them stay comfortable in the distance. The truth is becoming impossible to keep quiet. You matter to them, not in a casual or surface-level way, but in a way that has genuinely changed how they understand closeness itself. That kind of realization is deeply unsettling for someone who has spent a long time protecting themselves from exactly this. Because once you fully accept how much someone means to you, you also have to accept the vulnerability that comes with it, the openness, the risk, the chance of being hurt. Fear has guided their choices for a long time. Fear of pain, fear of losing control, fear of being fully seen by someone and then left alone with that. But fear has a limit. The energy it takes to keep avoiding the truth eventually becomes greater than the energy it would take to simply be honest. That is the threshold they are moving toward right now. The silence between you has stopped feeling empty to them. It has become loud. Every day they remain disconnected. The awareness inside them becomes more insistent. Every attempt to push the feeling back down only increases the pressure rather than releasing it. This is why the energetic shifts you have been picking up lately have felt so strong and so persistent. Something inside them is genuinely preparing for a real change. Not something forced from the outside, but an authentic emotional reckoning that quietly reshapes how a person sees their entire life. They are beginning to understand that losing you would not simply mean losing a person. It would mean losing a part of themselves they only discovered through this particular bond. Once that understanding lands inside someone, it changes them in deep and lasting ways. Whether they have let any of this show on the surface yet, their heart is moving toward a moment where silence can no longer be maintained. The more they try to hold the distance, the more loudly your absence announces itself. This has created a real internal conflict. One part of them wants to stay behind the wall where it feels safer. Another part cannot stop imagining what it would feel like to simply reach out. They run different scenarios through their mind. Think about what they might say. Wonder how you might respond. Ask themselves quietly whether it is already too late for any of it. Those questions rotate through their thoughts and they cannot make them stop. What once felt easy to avoid now carries a growing sense of pressure. Share this with someone who needs to know they are still on someone's mind. There are moments when they come very close to sending a message. The pressure builds until the silence nearly breaks open on its own. Then fear steps in at the last second and stops them. But that fear is losing its power gradually, not all at once. Day by day the weight of emotional truth grows heavier than whatever safety the old avoidance once offered. The part of them that worked so hard to stay separate is beginning to soften. Underneath all of the resistance, they already know the truth. No one else has reached them the way you have. No one else brought that specific combination of depth and recognition, and the feeling of being genuinely understood. That knowledge has shifted everything for them. What once felt uncertain now feels important. What they once avoided now feels impossible to escape. What they once questioned is becoming clearer with every day that passes. And clarity always brings movement. The emotional progress this requires does not happen in neat or predictable steps. There are still fears to face, old habits to recognize and examine honestly, truths to accept that are uncomfortable but necessary. But something fundamental has already changed inside them. They are no longer standing outside this feeling, deciding whether to step in. They are already inside it, and they feel it completely. Once someone arrives at that place, staying silent becomes much harder to sustain. Both of you have grown through this. The old imbalance between you cannot continue in the same form. Something more honest is trying to come forward now. All of the silence, all of the private thinking, and all of the building inner pressure have created a situation where something must finally move. Real emotional truth cannot stay suppressed forever before it finds a way to express itself. Something inside them has reached the point where holding everything in is no longer possible. The silence that once felt like safety has started to work against them. The distance they created to feel protected now feels lonelier than honesty ever would. This is the final stage before real change arrives. For a long time they believed that staying away would let the connection dissolve naturally on its own. They thought that being guarded long enough would slowly reduce the power of what they felt. But every attempt to disconnect has only made them more aware of how deeply this bond runs. They are now standing directly in front of something they cannot simply walk away from. You changed them in a way that stays. Once someone realizes that another person has permanently shifted how they experience love and closeness and being known, they cannot return to who they were before. That understanding has started a genuine awakening inside them. They are beginning to see that the peace they were searching for was never going to come from running. It was only ever going to come from being honest about what they feel, something they have resisted for a very long time. There are moments now when they are very close to reaching out. The inner pressure grows so strong that the silence nearly breaks open by itself. They stand at the edge of it. Fear still slows them down, but it is no longer strong enough to hold them back the way it once was. The overwhelming awareness of what it would mean to truly lose you is starting to outweigh the fear of reaching out. Whatever patience is still needed in the coming days, a genuine and unforced shift is already unfolding beneath everything you can see. This connection is moving toward a profound moment of emotional honesty. The truth inside them has finally grown too strong to keep pushing down. But the most important thing in all of this has always been about you realizing your worth so clearly and so completely that no period of silence could ever reduce it. The moment you stopped chasing and returned to your own peace, the entire dynamic between you transformed. It forced them to sit with your absence without distraction. Trust the quiet movement you are sensing beneath the surface right now. You are not imagining it. Two people are standing at the edge of truth. One is learning to stop running. The other is learning to love without disappearing into it. But whatever comes next, carry this with you always. You are already becoming whole, not because someone finally chooses you, not because the silence ends on a particular day. You are becoming whole because you stopped abandoning yourself while loving someone else. Comment the single word from this that hit you the hardest, and stay close because more messages like this are on the way. That kind of healing, the kind that grows from returning to your own value, changes absolutely everything that follows it.